Getting nice and comfortable in your chair. Stacking your body up in such a way that it becomes stable, settled. Your legs soft, your feet relaxed on the ground, your hips released. Settling the weight through your body, resting in the appropriate spot. Neither leaning nor collapsing. And in that comfortably stable and open state, a well-constructed posture, it becomes easier to soften through, to relax. Soften that space between your eyebrows, around your eyes. Relax your jaw. Soften the base of your tongue and your throat. Release the sides and the back of your neck, allowing your spine to lengthen as your head is released upward, decompressing your neck. Releasing the tops of your shoulders. With each exhalation, they're a bit softer. It's as though your elbows are allowed to hang and become heavy. Your forearms, your wrists and palms. A wave of softness all the way from the shoulder to the fingertips. Your chest is released and your upper back. As you settle your chest and simply letting go of anything that's propping it up or puffing it up, feel all of that extra just sink down, settling to the belly. And in your upper back, as your shoulder blades soften away from your spine, releasing your mid-back, make sure that the shoulder blades soften down your back rather than rolling forward, so that your chest remains settled and your upper back is also allowed to open at the same time. And this will further release the tops of your shoulders. Another wave of softness to the fingertips. Another level of release through the upper back and the neck. With each exhalation, a little softer. As you soften your belly and you release the breath, let go of the rib sides, lateral side of the abdomen, softening your lower back, continuing to allow the weight to fall through from the top of the head, all the way along the spine, through the center of the body, and resting in that space in front of those sitting bones. Find a way to allow your lower back to open, much like a flower opening to the sun here in this beautiful springtime. Making even more space for your breath, further softening your belly. As you open your lower back, that continues to release your upper spine and your neck. Continues to make everything even easier. With each exhalation, softer and softer. And if you're sitting, notice any tension that you might have, clenching your glutes or tightening your thighs. Maybe your toes are gripping for no reason. And just the same, you exhale, and that wave of softness travels from the hips to the toes. As you cultivate these, what I'm calling waves of softness, this is a kind of chi flow. This is a kind of movement through the body. Just from letting go, from making space. Explore how that feels. You exhale and you soften, and the softer you get, the more still you become. As you inhale, exhale, softer, inhale, deeper and deeper levels of stillness. Just take your time, be comfortable. Using my tea to warm up my hands. Very chilly in here. And then when you're ready, bringing life, warmth, softness into your hands, more awareness into your hands. I'm going to take off my headset as we move through the face and the head. And as a reminder, as usual, if you are new here, you found yourself here by clicking the link and you're not quite sure what's happening, please do check down below for a link to an introductory video that will explain what we're doing and a list of the movements and numbers of repetitions so they feel less confusing as you practice. It's like empty. Whenever I do that relaxing meditation, my hands get really, really warm. So I feel pretty good at it. that always leaves my whole head feeling like just warm and full and buzzing with life. So nice. Taking the time to soften open, make sure that your hands are released, your whole arm is soft, and allow that softness to soak into the shoulder. I know these are common areas for people to experience lots of discomfort, and so we want to take extra time if needed. Softening open the lung channel, lung 5 here. One of the names for this point refers to a marsh or a swamp, which in part is just referring to its soft, squishy space. So you want to make sure that this becomes easy and soft over time. The tendons and through here, everything is flexible and released. Nothing drawn tight. I know for many people the skin becomes really taut as tension accumulates in the body and we have poor circulation. You might find that your muscles feel like bands of iron. And these are just things that we learn to let go of. You don't want to try to force them open. Instead, you learn to soften them through warming, through kindness, this gentle, consistent touch. Every day for 100 days, letting things transform over a few months. And importantly, allowing your awareness to soak in as well. Because, of course, that's part of Qi flow and how we're coming to understand the body. Visitor. They were staring at me through the door, wondering what I was doing. I should have made some sort of Daoist gang sign. As your body softens and your mind slows down, notice if it's gotten easier for you to place your mind and your awareness into that layer between the skin, the bone, and the muscle. Just this beginning layer of movement inside the body. There's a lot of layers inside the body to open your awareness into. This is just one. If you notice places where it seems difficult for your mind to go, often those are areas of obstruction. And so it's worth not forcing, but spending extra time noticing and nourishing, warming, finding a way to connect. Remember that if you try to push your mind, try to force your awareness into places, that doesn't go well. You simply gently rest your awareness someplace and it soaks in like water. It's something that happens on its own until it becomes easy. But when you try to use force, grip your mind and try to push it around, then all you do is cause stagnation, damage to the channels, and your chi rushes upward. So please be gentle. Just as a reminder, if you are somebody whose shoulders tend to roll forward, and this of course is quite a common thing, then you want to find those places that are gripping and pulling forward and soften them open in the direction of the movement down the arm. It's difficult to try to force our bodies to soften. That's that soften harder joke. So you find the areas that are being gripped, that distort you and pull you out of position, and we begin to soften them and let them go. Sometimes it can be useful to use a bit of force, a little bit of pressure, in a sense, to get things to start to change. But as quickly as you can, you want to let that go. A heron? Oh. Did it land or just fly past it?
Well, it was going so slow, I thought maybe.
It is amazing how slowly they seem to fly. We have some local blue herons. If you're not sure what they look like, it's very worth doing a search for them later. They're so beautiful. Some of my favorites.
Yep, it's on camera. It's on camera.
Really? So you're saying that everybody else got to see it but me? Oh, we'll look at it later. At 40 minutes in, if people want to look later they can rewind and check the heron flying by. Again, this marshy, swampy point, softening it open. Notice that you can tighten and grip in such a way that it fills and becomes obstructed, or you can soften all of that so that it's easier for movement to travel through and in. And that includes the movement of your mind, the movement of circulation. Opening this point. When I'm giving acupuncture treatments, one of the methods that I use that makes it so effective is that instead of just popping a needle into the point, first I use my hands and my awareness to connect with the chi of that point, which is just to say that we want to allow it to open, like how I'm describing here. We soften any rigidity around it. We draw circulation and warmth, the person's awareness to this point. Life coming into these points makes a difference. And then I would put the needle in. And we can do that to ourselves. We connect and touch and find as these points and areas open and become more lively. And each point, of course, will have a different quality, what it means for that area to be lively, but you do want to learn to listen. Steph is the bird lover.
Oh, yay. Yeah, I was trying to rewind and snap a picture, but it's so blurry.
Yeah. We're so lucky here. So much life. And just as an example, one of the reasons why we have so much more life here on this property than in our neighbors' properties all around us on the mountain, it's around 30 acres up here, is because we create a safe space, we create a quiet space. And that's exactly what we're doing in our bodies. The feng shui of our bodies. We balance, we create a space that's stable and comfortable. We quiet our mind, we allow ourselves to feel safe and warm. And in that space, life begins to flow, things begin to open. Our chi comes out of hiding. And so if you're somebody who is a nature lover, maybe you've experienced what it's like. You know, there's often the two kinds of people. There's the kinds of people that go into the woods and they make such a racket as they wander through. They make so much noise, they're talking, they're not listening at all. They're breaking things, making a mess. And they go through the forest and they never see animals. They don't hear the birds, nothing happens because they're too busy both talking over the birds and scaring everything away. And then there's the kind of people that go into the woods, even into a park, and they're so quiet and unassuming that they become part of the space. And so they see lots of life, insects everywhere, birds, other animals come out because they feel safe. And we want to develop that kind of relationship with the body, the ability to soften and quiet the mind, to connect and move in such a way that life is flowing. We're not moving against it. We're not being loud and antagonistic to our own sense. We settle into our bodies in the same way that we quiet and listen to the distant bird song. We quiet and listen to the flowing of our body. I'm okay. Thank you. You're so kind. Learn to listen. Learn to be still. It's all the same skill. Take your time, letting everything go. There's no hurry. As though you're flicking water from your fingertips, travels from your shoulders, through your elbows, through your hands. Notice that as you shake, you could shake in such a way that it kind of pressures your elbow, like the movement is going this way and through your elbow, and you're sort of shaking into your elbow and traumatizing it. Or you can shake in such a way that it hurts your wrists, like you're shaking into your wrist this way. And see if you can find a way to shake such that it goes through your arm, through the fingertips. So rather than it running into a joint, you go through the joints, through the tissues. And that's true with everything we do. Every time you stretch in the morning, always find a way to let the movement go through the body rather than into it. Through, not to. It gets very still. That's true. Mel was mentioning that she's not seeing any wind. Yeah, there's just this quiet, warm drizzle. Taking the time to allow everything to settle within. To continue with the analogy from earlier, this is where you'd sit beneath the tree and you wait for a little while, and after a little bit maybe the crickets start again, or maybe the frogs start to sing, the birds come out, some squirrel comes skittering along the tree to look at you, and eventually the deer come out of hiding. And these are just properties of you waiting, being quiet and still. There's nothing to do, but there are definite signs of what you're waiting for. And so you learn to listen and look for them. They're not imaginary. Let yourself settle. Let the change happen. Remember that if you'd like to include breast massage here, that might be a good moment to do it. That way you can, afterward, continue to sink your chi downward. If your mind wanders away, remember the appropriate way to bring it back by letting go, not grabbing on. Letting your awareness come to rest rather than wrestling it. That space just between the solar plexus and the navel, this golden palace idea referring to your digestive system. Warming and softening, letting your awareness sink in. So we've been covering the channels that are traveling across the torso. We already learned the 12 primary channels in the arms and legs, the 8 extraordinary vessels, and now we've been reviewing where those main channels traverse the torso. And today we can think about the liver channel. It travels up from the big toe, up the top of the foot, side of the leg, this soft place on the side of the thigh here above the knee, all the way up into the groin. It actually wraps around the groin. And then it comes up. And it's going to move off to the side. We have these little floating ribs here, little soft, squishy spaces beneath the ribs that we're softening as we do this. One of the points that we're connecting with here is this liver channel. And so we want to help soothe it open. And then the liver channel comes up from there, just here in the ribs, below the level of the breasts. Oftentimes, it can get really sore, especially if you're somebody who menstruates. During that menstrual time, this can get really tender. And so it's often worthwhile to spend extra time relieving that, which of course we do in this set anyway. But here, softening the points that connect with the floating ribs, just beneath the main ribs that you feel here. And then reaching across and softening through the rib side here, that spleen point on the side here, spleen 21, this great luo, this wrapping channel that we have that we are releasing. And also as we come across and follow the ribs, we're coming beneath the breasts. And these spots here, you may notice a couple sore spots there. Helping to release. Let's just take some extra time here to soften from the side of the waist all the way near where the side seam is. It may be a tender spot to your fingertips, the spleen point, all the way forward to these liver points here beneath the breast. On both sides. Hmm. Especially useful to do during these springtime sessions. People tend to get a little bit more fullness here during this time. And then through here. Hands sliding down the sides. We'll move over those floating rib points that we were just talking about. One of them pertains to the liver channel. Around and down. Emphasizing the downward and the consolidation toward the navel. Constantly sinking down. It's very important to learn how to keep the chi from rushing upward. And similar in the opposite direction, we consolidate and sink down to the navel. Keeping the tops of the shoulders relaxed. Don't let this become something that causes more shoulder tension than it releases. Probably the next 100-day series that we'll do will be about a shoulder releasing set to help people learn to open their neck and shoulders. And so if that's a particular difficulty for you, then make sure you stay tuned. But first, connect with your body. Feel into your body. These deep layers. Well, this one's a very superficial layer. But if we can't feel these spaces just beneath the skin, then we can't feel into the joints, and it's harder to actually release what's going on. Also, if you're somebody who perhaps you notice that your mind is particularly chaotic, maybe it jumps around, it's difficult for you to be present for a practice, which of course can make it difficult to learn Qigong. And so a practice like this that's constantly pulling you back into your body, is really useful for teaching you to anchor into the present moment. I was yesterday doing push hands with a friend who is a avid Tibetan Buddhist practitioner. And he was saying, oh, why don't you just do a kind of vipassana practice where your mind is scanning the body, a body scanning meditation practice. And I think very highly of them. And in his particular system and school, he was mentioning how you use the imagination. You imagine parts of your body. You imagine deities and beings and various spaces in the body. And this was something I practiced a little bit as a kid. And my big hesitation around that as a method is that you are constantly using your imagination. And imagination can be a wonderful way to guide you into your body. That's why sometimes we'll imagine rainfall or light or these things, and your awareness kind of follows that imagination into your body. But then as soon as you can, you want to leave it behind because it's so easy to let your awareness, your imagination take over. So now you're imagining more than you're feeling. And we want to connect to the real, to always be here. And so I feel like this is a really wonderful practice because it makes it easy to feel what's going on. You're always coming back. Healing somatic practice. Practicing being soft and present and kind, gentle. Feeling into your abdomen, at least that space beneath the skin on top of the musculature. And some of your awareness may be drawn inside as well, circulating through the organs. Slowly consolidating, settling into that space, if possible, between the navel and the spine, but at least deep to your navel, feeling into your body. Softening in front of the hip. Again, the gallbladder channel travels up here near these tendons where you can feel through the groin. Mostly we emphasize the point a bit higher here in that soft spot, stomach 30 point, but you can work the liver points here if you like. And then, again, this slightly increased number of warmth and movement on the lower back. Moving at the pace that allows you to stay soft and relaxed, using the part of your hand that allows your shoulders to be easy and pain-free. The softer you become, the easier this is, and you can do it without tension or difficulty. But if you find yourself becoming tense or having discomfort, please do take a break, go slower, find a different way, or just stop. allowing the breath to slowly open into the lower back. Your hands getting softer and softer as you practice. If this line here is particularly painful for you, this IT band, then you can of course spend extra time on other points that may feel tender here. Again, especially this time of year, for many people, this becomes, shall we say, irritable. Or if you've been trapped in bed or you sit a lot, these may become very tight and reactive, in which case you want to be extra gentle and aware in these spaces. Please do take the time to heal your body in the way it needs to be healed. Softening the space just above the knee, this stomach 34 point. Actually, one of my favorite points for treating breast discomfort. The spleen point. And I like to spend a little bit of extra time on a point that we don't always hit, which is just this liver point here, liver 8. So in the fold of my knee, it's just above that crease, and the soft side of your thigh, just above the knee. It's kind of a soft cheek over here that feels like you want to protect it above the hard part of the knee. It's a liver 8 point. Very very useful point for nourishing the blood in general, soothing the liver channel. If your shoulders start to feel tired, then feel free to shake out your arms, take a break. Sitting in such a way that you can reach your legs without having to crouch or round or break your posture up. If that liver 8 point above the knee, feels particularly good to you, then you might want to include that in your daily practice. That's a really good point in general. Your awareness soaking into that space behind your knee, allowing the space to soften. Notice whether or not your tendons there are drawn tight and gripping. They should feel tight in the sense that they're strong structures, but they should be movable to your fingers. Warming stomach 36. And then the sides of the legs, gallbladder 34. Particularly great one for rib side tension. I'm also doing spleen 9 here. And then catching each of these points as you circle around your fingers, gently touching them, if that doesn't feel too difficult. For instance, notice that my thumbs here is touching the liver 8 point that we were working on the side of the leg as I circle around. Most of the work is being done with my palms, gently circling and warming around the kneecaps. But my idle fingertips are touching and gently stimulating these separate points as I go around. Don't let that feel like it gets in the way of your practice, though. It's just a little bit of an extra fun thing you can try. One of the things about living in the woods is that occasionally you hear people hunting. And since we're close friends with all of the creatures that like to come here and be safe and live, we always hope they're safe out there and someone's not out killing them for fun. Not a lot of protections for our non-human friends. You do like it? Aged black pour. Yeah, I didn't see what year it was from. I would guess 2004. Not for any good reason. Softening that point in the center of the calf. Easing open. Thank you. If you just want to put it there. You are wonderful. That's just my guess. It tastes like 2004. When I say it, I'm only joking. But when I was studying Cha Dao, the art of tea with a master, she had a couple of students that could identify the tea, where it came from, probably which master made it, or if it was one of their apprentices, which year it was. It was wild. Super skilled. This spleen 6 point here, above the ankle that we talk about often, we label it as a spleen point, but the liver channel also passes through here. It's another good reason to warm it today, spending extra time. And if you have been learning the various channels and vessels in the body, just remember to occasionally run through them in your head, on your body, to keep them fresh in your memory. This spaced repetition style memory work is very important. Softening all the way around. Can't believe you did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Softening all the way down. Releasing the calf. Noticing any levels of relative tension. If your calf is gripped and maybe it feels like there's no circulation in it, it might feel hard to the touch. Maybe you notice the skin changes over the calves because of the way you treat your body and lock your knees. You want to find your way in here and begin to soften things, begin to allow it to open. You're not trying to push hard, you're just letting your awareness sink in, letting movement travel through. And that liver 3 point on the top of the foot between the first and second tendon. You can spend a little extra time on that point as well. Really wonderful point. Probably my top 10 favorite points to use when it's appropriate. Maybe we can soften down and up. You might find it more comfortable to let your hands travel down the fronts and then up, whichever way works best for you. But do release all the way through to your feet. Learning how to engage this soft wave of release through your tissues. Moving your feet, I'll copy with my hands. Remember that you're not just turning your ankles, but rather you're shaping your feet as though they're moving over an arch. Touching your big toe, touching your little toe. You can also do it across. And then, as though grasping with your feet, spread your toes open, grasp with your feet. Not just moving your toes, but seeing if you can get the bottom of your foot, your arch, to round as though there's an extra joint in the center of your foot, which for some percentage of you, there actually is one. To make sure that you can go all the way around.
Yeah.
Mel's mentioning how useful it is to go slowly around. You could do the same in the opposite direction. You can rub your feet. Get them nice and warm. And remember, this set with the feet, I recommend doing every day before you get out of bed. Not this part. Waking up the bottom of your feet. Shaking the heavenly pillar. I will take off my headphones, but again, I will slightly increase the number of movements as we tap teeth, click, and then lengthen our tongue without tension, and then swishing the saliva around our mouth, swishing our tongue in full circles. You might find it helpful to also move your jaw a little bit from side to side as you do that. And so again, I'll be doing a slightly larger number for these sets, but only do as many as you can without adding too much tension. Over time, we want to increase them and push that a little bit, but not so much that we generate tension in these areas we've worked to soften. And of course, if you'd like to lie flat, feel free to do so. Letting yourself soften to the ground can be a wonderful way to make sure your whole body is open and free after this practice. If you're lying down and would like to begin sitting up, you're welcome. Or of course, you can just stay lying down and be relaxed. Perfectly okay. Letting your awareness rest in the center of your body, and then very slowly it spreads out, feeling your whole body, especially this particular layer we've been working on. And then, of course, spreading out from there, remaining anchored in the body, but feeling and your awareness connects to the space around you. Anchored in the present moment. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you joining. If there's any questions, feel free to ask. We'll wait a few minutes in case the questions take time to come through. Ooh, I can get my tea. Thank you, Steph. So nice to have you here. Anna, we're grateful for your presence. Oh, thanks, Steph. Yeah, I feel that way too. All of these methods are just so lovely. They make those changes that they feel subtle until you notice they're systemic. They've changed everything. Ah. Mel has a question?
So when we're hinging from hips, doing movements like this, can you remind us where the weight should be? Because what I notice in my body is that if all the weight is, it's really easy for me to kind of just collapse like this.
Huh.
But I want to stay at a 45-degree angle, and my body tends to grip in the solar plexus to do that. But I notice when I let go of that gripping, the tension falls back. And so I'm wondering if the expectation
Mm-hmm.
and maybe what that ratio is.
Right.
If that makes sense.
So Mel is asking about this bending practice that we do and where the weight is in the body as we move. So if I'm doing these movements, let's say I want to release down at 45, and with our practice, we want the weight to release out of the body into the seat. And so we fold. And for the most part, the weight stays in the seat. And there's a little bit, because of how we're pitching forward, some of the weight ends up in the legs. But ideally, we don't have to push with our legs to hold ourselves up. The weight is just kind of statically stretching in our body, just naturally supports us there. And so, of course, there is some engagement down here in the lower back. But if we're through, then it's very minimal. And actually, there's a couple stages here. Mel's mentioning how traditionally there's a lot of pressure and tension here. And so when you release that and your body doesn't know how to exist without that pressure, there's a kind of collapsing that happens. And it happens to everybody. People, we're used to holding our shoulders up and we start to let them go, but we don't know how to let them go into the right position. So instead we sort of collapse, one forward, one back, or we don't know how to hold ourselves. And that's in a way that is letting go rather than a holding on, a gripping. And so usually the first stage is a kind of collapsing as you begin to make room. And I think that's really normal. And so it's the same thing here, that if you go down and you only know how to hold yourself up here, then you start to collapse and fall, and maybe you hold your breath and you're trying to pressurize in the way that you're used to. And we try to transfer that tension from here to here. And I think that's okay, just in the sense that it's a stage of release. Just knowing that as you let all of the weight out of the body, how much effort does it take to lift a weightless body? And so that's the thing.
In a 45-degree angle,
Uh-huh.
describe what you're feeling where the weight is.
So I feel pressure here where my seat is pressing into me because I'm going to let it drop. And there's a little bit of a stretch here of the tissues. And it's funny because the stretch is actually enough to hold me up.
Okay, that was really part of my question. What holds you up when you're in that 45-degree?
There's just that release. Right. Well, and when we say let go, again, it's what if we just say that we tend to use 100% of the muscular power, but really it's only going to take 5%. And so that's relatively, for people, that's super relaxed. But all we know is 100% or collapsed. And so if our nervous system and muscles become more like a dimmer switch, and that makes a difference. And eventually, in the same way that, like, if you took a really deep inhalation and filled up your breath, you could sort of lay on that pressurization a little bit. We don't want to do that, but there is a kind of fullness that happens in the body as we make more space and let go. And then that's also enough to hold us up. And that's that pung quality, this like fullness. But to get there, we have to let go enough so that it can start to fill. And we have to have enough of our mind in our body so that it draws the chi into that space. And so there's that weird in between space. And please, everybody, let me know if this makes sense to you as well. There's this awkward in between place where we're really tight and then we don't know how to move in a way that's not tight. And so we start to let it all go. And now we're just this kind of floppy creature. We don't know how to rest on our structure, and we don't know how to settle through. Maybe we're soft here now, but we're really tight here. So then everything's just sitting on this, and now it's twice as tight as it was before. And all of those stages, I think, are normal. And we just have to know that we have to keep going and keep releasing. And those awkward, uncomfortable places in between are just that. And so you keep letting go and keep letting go. In the same way, if you can consider it as you heal your shoulder, but now you feel the old injury that you had from your shoulder. Like for years, I dealt with an injury from Taekwondo. Somebody had grabbed my elbow and yanked it up behind my body when I was relaxed because I trusted them. Silly me. It's the danger of working with white belts, people who have a new technique, but they don't know how hard to pull. And it ripped my shoulder up. And for years, it was just painful. I can still make it pop and things because of that. But my body didn't know how to let go and not put pressure into that area. And so what it did was it started the healing process again, and it swelled up and it hurt. but it took a long time. And so I kept having the problem of avoiding that injury because I thought I was doing something wrong, instead of realizing that I just had to let it start to heal. And so similarly here, as we lean, we keep letting the weight transfer out of the body. So we become weightless because being heavy is the problem. And we keep letting that movement travel upwards through the body. So the spine is linked. There's this natural buoyancy that happens. And that buoyancy and the stretch and the release is actually enough so that it makes it really easy to move.
The buoyancy and the stretch.
I think so. And the letting go. That's right. Yeah, just the natural elasticity and opening of the body. There is pressure in the dantian as well, but that's harder to talk about. I do feel pressure with my feet pushing into the ground as I pitch forward a little bit, but I don't have to push back. It's just, again, it's enough of the natural tensile strength of the tissues. Just being at rest is enough to hold you. And then eventually, as you soften, just by letting go down to my hips, it sits me up, like in the Ba Duan Jing practice. Ba Duan Jing. You soften, you let the weight sink, and so you fall upward. And so there's that quality of letting go. I'm not, yeah, if I go like this and all I do is soften down my back to the seat, it makes me go like that. Well, I'm rolling because of that, but it would just sit me up. And so it's the same thing going down. How much effort does it take to go down? Not a lot. It's only if I'm holding myself along the way. So I'm letting go this way, and I let go this way. And that's what we're aiming for. And then, of course, what Shifu feels, who knows? But something else entirely. You're filled with clouds and light.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think they can hear you, but ZhiCheng Shifu tells us, he's always telling us that he wishes he could let us feel what he's feeling in his body, for both for teaching purposes, but also because it would make us really excited to practice and develop what he has. And just in my very beginning level, it feels fantastic. The difference that's in my body now, and especially even compared to some of the people that I get to work with, what I'm trying to describe to people, it sounds like magic to them. And I'm a total beginner. And ZhiCheng's, he's on a completely separate scale. I can't even begin to understand what he's working on. He can't even tell me what he's working on because my capacity for knowledge isn't that far. And it's all through this process of letting go and being open and release. It's just that level of depth. How far down are we letting go? And so very worthwhile. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
That was very helpful.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm starting to feel that release of tension and solar plexus, these areas that
Yeah.
like for it to hold me up. And it's nice. I don't think I have even close to the level of buoyancy that you have, but I can imagine how I'm starting to imagine how that would
Yeah, that buoyancy quality, and it just comes from rest, and it comes from making space, and then the breath goes in there, and the tissues themselves become sort of full feeling. They have like this kind of quality, like that feeling. You're not doing anything; it's just like, whoa, it fills you up, and so you can move just on that like ocean fullness feeling. And especially once your rotational dantian comes in, then all I have to do is rotate around that, and you're just sort of balanced on that around it. And so, yeah. And then, of course, with like higher levels of internal strength skills and stuff, it must just get easier and easier and easier. Amazing. I will let you know when I have those skills. Not yet. I'm not sure if anybody's still with us, but we appreciate you. Thank you for joining. I hope that you're able to hear Melanie at least a little bit with these on. Thank you. Enjoy your practice.